Good morning, I'm David Ball and I'm in the UK.
And hi, I'm Rick Weymouth and sharing from New Zealand.
Rick and I are going to be continuing our discussion about the implications of the digital age for TEE. And today we're going to be focusing on the whole issue of group discussion.
Yeah, of course, the first element of TEE is self-study materials. And when you go online, you're now looking at multimedia, creative online course content.
And the second element of TEE is group discussion, which is traditionally in a local learning group. So what happens to group discussion and local group learning when you want to offer online classes?
Yeah, so as we think about group discussion, there are three main options. Regular face-to-face discussion, of course, traditional TEE, and there are two online discussion options, synchronous video conferencing and asynchronous threaded forum discussion. Let me show you them graphically.
So many of us are now familiar with video conferencing because of emergency remote learning in the pandemic. We had to replace our face-to-face groups with online video conference class meetings. And some of us have, of course, used video conferencing for deliberate group meeting strategy.
So threaded forum discussion, what is it? In a way, it's similar to email. When we email people, we share thoughts and respond to other people's thoughts, and we have a subject heading and then the content that we write underneath. The threaded forum discussion is pretty similar. It refers to an extended group discussion of the same topic using the same subject heading, or what we call a thread, with an initial post to the forum and then multiple responses within that thread or discussion.
So basically what Rick and I are now going to do is to go through the advantages and disadvantages of each of these methods and try and give some, highlight some of those. We've given a handout, so if you haven't printed that out or you haven't got that available, it might be worth pausing so that you've got that to look at while we discuss things. But the key thing that we're really talking about is the issue of how do we do discipleship in a digital age, and how meeting in person has been the key to that, and what does that mean when we go through into online learning? How can we continue discipleship?
First of all, let's compare traditional face-to-face with online learning. So the two different methods of online discussion can be joined together here, and we're going to compare them with the first method, regular face-to-face group discussion. First of all, let's look at the local church community connection. In the regular model of face-to-face discussion, it's of course local church based, and we keep our TEE educational philosophy intact. In the online models, both methods, we can have geographically remote students, not from the same church, and there can be temptations to move away from church-based training, and it now requires significant intentionality and commitment to keep it. Face-to-face discussion, the learners really know each other's lives and families, work, ministry situations, their needs, and so on. Online, it's a bit harder for them to know each other's backgrounds and context very well. So face-to-face, there's a very supportive learning community made possible, and personal sharing is possible. Online community building is possible, but limited, and it requires significant effort.
What are the implications for practical application and ministry supervision? Again, in the traditional TEE model of a local group, this is the strength of that model, and the facilitator can reinforce learning and can support the students in the application of learning in their local context. And that becomes slightly more difficult, so it has to be thought through when you do it online. And the facilitator can mentor and disciple the learners in a very hands-on way in a local group. And again, if you do that online, you need to do more thinking about how that can be done. And group leader can easily facilitate and be involved in the practical assignments, whereas they may not know the context of the students in the online version.
In fact, there are limitations, though, to the face-to-face discussion method, where the online methods, both methods, have more benefits. So, first of all, of course, face-to-face, your classes are less accessible because they're limited to learners in the same town or area. An online class can have international students. They can live anywhere in the world. In the local face-to-face discussion, your learners, of course, are from the same area, same backgrounds pretty much. So there's less diversity. Online, you bring together learners from a variety of backgrounds, and that can lead to richer, horizon expanding discussions, bridging learners across the world, including diaspora learners. Face-to-face, you're limited by how many courses the local tutor can offer in a given year. Online, your students are not limited by a local tutor, but they can do as many courses as they like and pick and choose courses. So there are some advantages to the online discussion methods.
Thanks, Rick. So I think that's really helpful. But let's move on to look at then if that's the advantage of the face-to-face versus the online. What about if we group the video conferencing and face-to-face group meeting with the threaded forum discussion and try and make a contrast between those two? The video conferencing is in some ways similar to a group discussion in that you can have regular meetings on a set day of the week. You can have the sharing of your thoughts in that discussion, immediate thoughts. Of course, there's not always equal participation because sometimes the extroverts dominate in that discussion and quiet people who often have something to say don't. And then the whole question of actually you don't necessarily understand where a person's thinking has come from in the face-to-face discussion. And often in a face-to-face discussion, it's an immediate thought rather than an in-depth, so it's a lower order thinking skill rather than a higher order thinking skill.
And of course, the video conference discussion is very similar to face-to-face discussion here. When you come to the forum discussion, it's worth noting that it can actually be more time-consuming to do the threaded forum discussion than it is in either of the two face-to-face options, video or regular. In a forum, I think there's equal participation among the participants, especially if you require that they must participate in the forum, and there's credit given for that. So introverts will share as equals in the class, and everyone hears, or in fact reads, each other's thoughts. Sharing is often following reflection when in the forum, and so it's often more considered, deeper, more thoughtful responses. You get to see what the learner is thinking and how they're thinking, and it uses higher thinking skills, higher order thinking skills such as analysing, evaluating and synthesising. So, David, when would we use each of the three methods or not use them?
So in the light of what you've just said there, I think the threaded forum discussion would tend to be suitable for a higher level bachelor or postgraduate discussion where you're talking about an in-depth discussion, and where people have computers and laptops available that they can be discussing easily in that way. Yeah, and the video conferencing, of course, we've looked at is really suitable for maybe any level of study, but particularly for the lower level discipleship certificate and diploma levels where you want to meet regularly and discuss with each other and disciple people.
Some other issues, technology issues. Of course, in face-to-face meetings, no technology is needed, though it could enhance even a face-to-face group. But for video conferencing, of course, technology is very important, and having adequate internet bandwidth and access is really needed, essential for meeting success. For the forum, internet access is necessary, but not 100% of the time. So for video conferencing, of course, it's accessible to most adults who possess smartphones or computers with web cameras. Face-to-face, it's limited to learners in the one local area or community.
So in a group discussion, relationality is really easy. You can have that relational discussion in a group where you're face-to-face. In video conferencing, that's a little bit more remote and distance, and you need to work on the connectedness. And then in the forum discussion, you have to, I think, put in that relationality. You have to make sure that you're asking those questions that are not just academic questions, but actually helping people to relate to one another. And the facilitator actually has to have a role in that.
Yeah, and in terms of motivation too, I think to some degree the motivation is higher with face-to-face groups. Just you're supporting each other much more and holding each other accountable. And in the forum discussion model, where you're fully online, learners, I think, tend to be less motivated by the group, and they therefore require high personal discipline to keep going. So let's just look at our 3 methods one more time. In fact, I think a combination of the 3 methods is likely to lead to superior results and to more effective class groups and group discussions. So, practicalities. For the threaded forum discussion, tutor skills really need to be upgraded. To some degree, it's more demanding and complex tutoring, but we can learn through experiencing excellent facilitation of online courses. Time-wise, the forum discussion is going to be more demanding for both students and for tutors or facilitators.
And the video conferencing, of course, the tutor skills are similar to face-to-face, that being able to facilitate a group discussion. But then you also need to be able to be technologically competent and know how to use and what's the best tool to use.
So, David, what about class sizes?
Well, I think for forums, video conferencing it is sort of similar to face-to-face. You know, you don't want to go more than actually engages everyone in the discussions.
I had some concluding thoughts from the 2 of us. I think we really need to use multiple methods for best impact. There's going to be a need for new training for facilitators and tutors, but the new possibilities should be embraced by us in TEE as we welcome online group discussion alongside local learning group discussion.
I think that as we've seen over the last few months, actually there are huge benefits of online discussion, and I think we need to engage with those without losing the strengths that we've had in the TEE world of the local group meeting.
Thanks, David. So for those of you watching, refer again to our handout. It will give you a bit more information. Thank you for listening in. God bless you.